In example 1, they simply ask you to write the equation of the linear function with gradient 3, y-intercept minus 2. Now, read that as many times as is necessary for you to really understand what they're asking you to do here. So, I would highlight this, write the equation. They're not asking me to draw the graph, solve anything. They're just simply asking me to write the equation. Now, another key word is that it is a linear function. Why is that a key word? It's because when I see that word linear, I automatically think y equals mx plus b. If you're not registering that word, you're not making the connection to this equation. So these are the things we're practicing every time we do a question, that we register the word and we connect that to something that we've learnt about that word. So all through this exercise, you're reinforcing that linear in the equation form is y equals mx plus b. So if I ask you in class, what do you immediately think when you see the word linear, excuse me, I expect that you will be saying y equals mx plus b. If I said, when you see the word linear and they're talking about a graph, what do you immediately think? I would expect you to say, I'm expecting to have to draw or see a straight line. Okay, the other important pieces of information are obviously the gradient is 3 and the y-intercept is 2. Now, gradient is 3. I'd expect that you know more than just that this is the equation, that you would know that m represents the gradient. And so we read this piece of information, translate it mathematically to m equals 3. I now read this piece of information and connect it immediately to b equals negative 2. That enables me then to complete my equation. Y equals 3x minus 2. And I'm done. Write an equation. What do you know an equation looks like? An equation has an equal sign. These linear equations will have x and y variables in them. Think back to here when I said at the very beginning that in maths, oh, this is not happy. That a function is a connection between two things, and these things are usually denoted by the pronumerals x and y. So we expect to see x and y in our equation. And so back to here now, we've answered the question, we've written the equation. Example 2, it says sketch y equals minus 2x plus 1. Again, what's important? It's important to read the word and register what that word means. If you're drawing a sketch, you'll be given a graph, some graph paper, or you'll draw up your number plane, your x and your y axis. Together this is called a number plane. We can get a bit of an idea about our graph before we even start a table of values by looking at the features. Obviously, we expect y and x to be in an equation that is linear, a linear equation, with a negative 2 in front of the x. The negative 2 tells us the gradient is a negative number. We're going to expect that when we draw sketch our graph, we end up with a line that is sloping down. We also know that this part of the equation represents where the line will cut the y-axis. I could plot that immediately. I could say, I know from the equation only that the sketch of this has to cut the y-axis at 1. Okay, from there, to draw a sketch, I'm sure you're quite familiar with the process of drawing a table of values. X goes across the top, Y in the bottom. We get to choose, and I'm choosing our X values. I'm choosing the 3 easiest values of 0, 1 and 2. When I sub X equal to 0, I'm substituting now, and we practice these skills back in the first algebra chapter. Y is -2 times the 0. I'm putting 0 in there for X, plus 1, which is anything times 0 is 0, and 0 plus 1 is 1. Then, when X is equal to 1, Y is, go to our equation, -2 times 1, and then add 1. -2 times 1 is -2, add 1 is -1. Got it. -1 goes with 1. And when X is equal to 2, Y is equal to -2 times 2, add 1, -4, add 1, which is -3. From this table of values, it's important that you can write the coordinates. I'm just going to move that and put it up here just to give me a bit more space here. From this table of values now that I've created, my pair or ordinates are 0, 1, 1, -1, and then 2, -3. So my task then is to graph these points. 0 for X, 1 for Y, and I'd already drawn that, plotted that point. 1 for X, so across 1 for X and -1 for Y, that's here. Then 2 for X and, 2 for X and -3. So now I've got my 3 points. If they don't line up, you've made a mistake either in your calculations here or plotting your points. There are 2 places you could make a mistake. I'll try and draw this freehand. However, you use a ruler, please, because I have to do freehand because the computer or the screen can't cope with the ruler resting on it and then me trying to draw. It just doesn't cope with that. So I'm going to go through here. Like I said, you must use a ruler. The markers in the HSC are looking for you to produce a graph of a linear function using a ruler. So you must start practicing now. If you don't have a ruler, then please make it your business to get one. Okay, so that's it. Just out of courtesy, we write the name of this straight line, which is y equals -2x plus 1, just in case we then ever have to draw another linear function on here. We want to distinguish between their names. I'd ask you to do then some of these easier ones, questions for homework, and we'll deal with the more difficult ones in class.